Today from Carolyn Crane's Off the Edge, which was announced as one of the finalists for the RITA Award in Romantic Suspense. Um, this is a scene where the hero is trying to get something from the heroine and is being deceitful with her, but they're also highly sexually attracted to each other, and she's trying to get to know him better, so she's asking him all these intrusive questions that he's trying to block without a lot of success. So he's just told her about how he moved around a lot with his family when he was young, and um, he says to her, I started this habit of seeking out 3 secret wonders, I suppose you'd call them, in every new city, 3 hidden things to make my own. It made me feel less alone. She felt a rush of triumph. And you still do it, to feel less alone. He seemed to weigh his words. It's only force of habit now, he said. Like hell, she thought. He was still a stranger, still seeking connection. More than force of habit got you over this wall. His blue-gray gaze felt heavy in her body. Is that so? I think you got some slabs of stone of your own you're guarding, she said. He came to her and touched her cheek. It was just a fingertip, but it felt electric. Clever Miss Callback. He'd seemed remote before, but now he was very much with her, breath warm on her nose. He slid the finger on down her cheek. Wild heat bloomed through her. What made you climb over? I'm not telling, he said. I want to know. He held her with that heavy gaze, turning his attention slowly to her lips, which caused her belly to do a flip-flop. He would kiss her, and he meant her to know it, but it still came as a surprise, the way he slid his hands along her cheeks, coming to a stop at the back of her head. He pulled her to him, crushing his mouth over hers. The rough, confident strength of his kiss made her feel warm and glowy, like heated honey. I want to know where your other places are, she said, into the kiss. But more, she wanted to know him. Hell, she just wanted him. I have something better. He yanked off her hat, seeming to forget his program of leaving this place. Something better to show me? She asked, voice husky. Her voice was actually husky. She put her hand on his chest, feeling the uneven rise and fall of his breath. Cool Maxwell being not so cool. She liked this Maxwell. Maybe she'd get that hair disheveled too now. Yes, but not like that. You have something to show me, but not like that, she teased, like her heart wasn't jackhammering. You would... He kissed her again before she could finish the question, roughly, all whiskers and heat and invading tongue, like a gate opened. Strong hands gripped her waist, fitting her crassly and perfectly against him. The kiss felt wild, disordered. She reached up and untucked his hair, mashing her fingers through it as he walked her back to the chunk of stone, the dragon's table. She hit it with her ass, but he kept going, pressing into the V of her legs, puzzle pieces of fucking. It's all she could think of now. She wanted him with a mad, mad fever. Yes, she said, pulling him closer. He kissed down her neck, and she melted a little bit more. Warm hands slid up the backs of her thighs, up over her panties, taking the dress up and lodging it at her waist. He lifted her onto the rough stone surface and set her there. She would get imprints on her thighs, and she was very okay with it. What are you going to show me, then? He rested his hands on either side of her thighs. A favorite place on you. She swallowed. Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah. Her heart banged inside her chest. That's what you're going to show me? Your favorite place on me? She narrowed her eyes. Is this going to be the cheesiest thing ever? No, he breathed. Cheesy never seems cheesy to the cheeser, she said. Is that an ancient saying that you've learned during your stay in Thailand? He rested his hands heavily on her thighs and slid them down to her knees. His gentle touch contrasted with the rough stone beneath her. Maybe, she whispered. He knelt down and kissed her knee, then looked up with that pale blue gaze. I'm going to show you now, unless you stop me. Unless you stop me. She shoved her hands into his hair. I won't stop you. He kissed her thigh. Yes. She tightened her fists in his hair. He looked up, gaze dark. Oh, sorry. She loosened her grip. No, go ahead. Keep hold of my hair. You might want something to hang on to. Wild energy shot through her. Again, he kissed the tender inside of her thigh. She imagined his tongue, warm and wicked, between her legs. It was a little obvious for her pussy to be his favorite place on her, but when he kissed her again, rough lips on sensitive skin, she decided it was okay for him to be obvious. More than okay. Go there, she thought. Be obvious. Be totally, stupidly obvious. Instead, he moved in the other direction, lower on her thigh, heading toward her knee. She loosened her grip. No! He flicked his gaze up to hers as he slid a hand down to her sheer sock, touching it. Then he slid his hand back up to the tender inside of her thigh. You're so pale here. Again, he slid his hand down over the nylon part. And then this nylon, it's absolutely ruthless. The nylon socks are ruthless? He gave her a devilish smile. Ruthless. He stroked his heavy hand from bare thigh to nylon. She loved the way the sensation changed when he did that. Bare skin to nylon. Nylon to bare skin. Heat built between her legs. She clenched the muscles between her thighs to stop the feeling overload. It didn't stop the feeling overload. The elastic, he said, tracing a finger over the brown band just below her right knee. These tight elastic bands, hot and a little bit evil. She could barely breathe. The elastic? That's your favorite place? Not exactly. He hooked a finger over the elastic band and pulled it out. Angry pink lines furrowed her skin where the elastic had grabbed tight to her calf for hours. She got the crazy sense that he was exposing a tender secret. Then he blew. The sudden puff of air was cool bliss on the tortured little band of skin. Oh my God, she panted, clutching his hair way too hard. He'd found and invaded the tenderest part of her. Then he kissed it, lips like silk. It was such a forbidden place to kiss, and unexpected too. That made it way dirtier. Do it again, she begged, startled to hear her own voice say that. He smiled up at her, just a little bit evil. He wouldn't do it again. She held his hair tighter, every nerve ending taut. He pulled the elastic out further. What was he going to do now? She trembled when he leaned in again and dragged his lip along the band of indents. Or maybe that was his tongue. He was like a dirty and unstoppable force of nature. This, then, he said, would be one of my favorite places on you. Maxwell. He'd turned her on and taken over her senses, and he hadn't even gotten above the knee. I can take the socks off, she rasped. God, no. He let the elastic snap back over her skin. She jolted up from the shock of it. Ow, she said. Ow? What was he doing to her? Ow, she said, breathing fast. Maybe she wasn't getting enough air. The moon seemed too bright. She didn't care, because it was good. Do it again. With a sly look, he hooked his fingers under the elastic of both her nylon socks now. Then he shoved her legs apart.